In today's video, we're talking about how to keep moisture away from your camera. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today's video is going to be all about how to keep moisture away from your camera. Now, this is something that I've had to deal with a lot this month. For the past 30 or 40 days in Sydney, where I live, it's just been raining. It's been horrible rain, like really heavy rain. We've had all sorts of floods. And of course, that presents all sorts of problems as a photographer. Number one is for myself, I do this for a living. So I have to go out and complete certain jobs. I can't just cancel them because of the weather. And number two, personally, if I don't pick up a camera every 2 or 3 days, I start getting a little bit loopy. So what I've done is I've put together a list of things that I use to mitigate the risks both to my camera equipment and also to the photography session to try and reduce the chances of things going wrong. And that's what I'm going to share with you today, and hopefully you'll find that useful. All right, so let's talk about the two main culprits when it comes to moisture in cameras. Number one is you've got rain, and number two, you've got humidity. Now, you would think that rain would be the bigger problem to tackle, but it's actually an easier problem to fix, I think, because you can see rain. Humidity, you can't see it, so that's when it can sneak up on you and cause problems. But rain, you can tell when it's raining, so it's easy to sort of respond to. There are some products available that you can put your camera inside these cases that they're not super expensive, but I wouldn't say they're cheap either. I have used those products before, but I've got to be honest, my go-to solution now is just a plastic bag. So what I do is I have one here to show you. I just use a plastic bag. Okay, so just a regular plastic bag, and then I cut a hole through the bottom, which that's where the lens is going to go through. So I put the whole camera into the bag. The lens comes out of the bag, and then just a rubber band that goes around it. So what this does is it gives you access to the back of the camera. The bag is secure, so it's not going to fly away or anything. And then the last thing that I do always is I just put a lens hood on the camera. Now what this does is this is going to protect the front elements of the lens so that you just don't get any water on there. But I've got to be honest, I've used the other stuff and I just keep gravitating back to the bag because in case of emergency, you can always find a bag. Okay, so the next thing would be to have some sort of lint-free cloth that you can use on your camera. Now I use this particular type of cloth. This is made specifically for glass. And what makes this special is the finish. So nothing can adhere to this material. There are some other ones which have a finish, more like a towel type of finish, so it's kind of furry, and you could get things stuck in there. For example, I shoot at the beach a lot, so if there was some sand that got caught up in the cloth, potentially I could use that to clean my camera and then scratch the lens. These ones here are different, so they're very, very smooth. It's a very flat, sort of almost shiny finish. And so nothing really sticks onto this, and that's why I like these ones. So if you're interested in these, I'll put a link to the description of this one here. I've had this for years and it works really well. But this is something else. I also carry a towel as well, just to do a general drying of the body of the camera. But when it comes to the lenses or any of the critical parts of the camera, I'll always use one of these. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about rain anymore because it really is just common sense stuff, okay? If your camera gets wet, just dry it off using some safe materials and you'll be fine. It's humidity that you need to worry about. So let's talk about how that affects our cameras. So the one rule that you need to remember when it comes to humidity is that going from a cool, dry place into a warm and humid place, generally speaking, it's bad. So this is when you need to take some precautions so that your camera can acclimatize properly into a new environment. An example of this would be if you are staying somewhere where they've got tropical weather and you are in a hotel and you go and step outside. Now, what you could do is you could bring your camera and just leave it outside for a little while and just let the camera acclimatize. The problem with that, of course, is that you're going to draw all that moisture the minute that you bring it from a cool environment into the hot and humid environment. So that's generally speaking something that you want to avoid. So the best way to do this is to get your camera and put it inside of your camera bag. And what you're going to do is you're going to close it, but you're not going to close it all the way. You're going to leave a little bit of a gap there, okay? So that's going to be enough to let some of that warmer air into the camera, inside of the camera bag, and it's going to bring the camera up to temperature very, very slowly. So then this whole bag needs to go somewhere outside. So if you've got a balcony, wherever you're staying, leave the bag outside. And if you can leave it in the sun, even better. It'll just speed up the whole process. But you may have to leave it in there for maybe half an hour to an hour, I think, to properly acclimatize that camera to the same temperature as the outside temperature. The other thing you might want to consider are these little silica bags. So when you buy anything these days, you'll find these little bags of these little plastic balls thrown inside pretty much anything you purchase these days. So what these are silica balls, and they draw away moisture. So you can buy packets of these, by the way, but you really don't have to, because like I said, pretty much anything you buy these days includes at least one of these. So instead of throwing them out, what I do is I just throw them into my camera bag and they just go in there. Now, one of them is not going to really make much difference, but if you've got a few in there, it's definitely going to help with drawing away some of that moisture that potentially could get inside of your camera. Okay, so the other thing that you're trying to avoid is opening up any of the compartments on the camera itself. So I'm talking about things like where the battery goes. Okay, so when you open that up, you could let moisture in through that slot. Also where the memory cards go in as well. So if you open that as well, that is pretty much an entry into the camera's internals. So overall, if you can avoid doing that, that's going to help to keep moisture from the inside of the camera. The next point is probably the most important one, and that is to think about the types of shots that you're going to be taking, because then you can fit the most appropriate lens onto your camera. You want to do that before you leave your hotel room. The last thing you want to do is be changing lenses in a hot and humid environment, because although the outside of the camera might have acclimatized, it usually takes a lot longer for the inside to acclimatize. And so when you pull your lens off your camera in a hot and humid environment, if the inside of the camera is still cool, all that moisture is going to be drawn into the camera body. Okay, and this happens within seconds. And all of that is going to land on the mirror and then onto the sensor. Now, once that happens, you've got a much bigger problem, and it's not something that you can usually fix on the field. Every photo will be foggy, and there's not a lot you can do that until you get that moisture off the camera. Now, this actually happened to me on a trip to Macau a few years back. I thought that my camera had acclimatized. It hadn't. I was in a non-air conditioned bus for 3 hours, and I went to change lenses, and it was very humid in the environment. And as I changed lenses, I did it very quickly. It was only exposed, maybe the sensor was exposed for maybe 6 seconds or so, but that was long enough for the sensor to just fog up, which ruined every photo on that trip. Now, if you're enjoying this video and you'd like to support me, if you could click the like button, it really makes a big difference to me and to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so. I make videos like this every week to help you with your photography. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. You'll be notified when I upload a new video. And don't forget about ministryoffphoto.com. That's my website where you're going to find a lot of tutorials, and you'll also find things such as reviews and some downloads such as Lightroom presets. It's completely free, so make sure you check it out. That's ministryoffphoto.com. Now, for my professional work, for my paid clients, what I will do, if I know that I'm going to be working in a hot and humid environment, I will bring extra camera bodies. And then ahead of time, I will have the lenses, different lenses fitted onto those camera bodies. So instead of changing lenses, I'm just simply changing cameras. Now, I know that that's not for everyone, because it can get really expensive having multiple bodies. And also, if you're traveling, for example, you may not be able to carry all the equipment that you would like. And sometimes you just have to limit the amount of equipment that you use. So in situations like that, this is my go-to setup. I will have in my case, it's a 5D Mark IV with a 24-70. That's pretty much going to let me shoot in pretty much any focal range that I like. Now, I don't usually like zoom lenses. I prefer primes, but I will use them if I have to. So in a situation like that, where I know that I'm going to have one camera and one lens only, this is the go-to solution for me. Now, if you get yourself into a situation where you are out in the field and you do need to change lenses, then something that I've done in the past is I've done it in the car. All I do is I run the air conditioning in the car, and I get it as cold as possible for maybe 5 minutes or so. And then I jump in the car with the camera, and I change the lenses while I'm inside of the camera. The air conditioner not only will bring the temperature of the temperature down, but it will also dry the air from moisture as well. And all of that is going to hopefully allow you to change lenses without getting any fogging inside of the lens or inside of the camera. So that's everything. I just wanted to make this video because it's all the rubbish that I've had to deal with in the last month with all the rain that we've been having. So hopefully you found it useful. But yeah, if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comment section below. Again, please don't forget to click the like button. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.